Alright, then back to another multiple choice question. The question shows us the same three graphs we saw earlier, but this time, the focus is on light intensity. So they are asking, at which points on the graphs could the rate of photosynthesis be limited by light intensity? Now let us look closely at each graph and figure out where light intensity is actually the limiting factor. Starting with the first graph, which shows the relationship between light intensity and the rate of photosynthesis. At point 1, the curve is rising steeply. This tells us that as the light intensity increases, the rate of photosynthesis is increasing too. That means light is still in short supply, so it is the limiting factor at this point. Then we come to point 2, where the curve starts to level off. That means increasing the light further is no longer helping. So beyond this point, something else must be limiting. In short, light is only limiting at point 1, not at point 2. Now, let us move to the second graph, which shows the effect of carbon dioxide concentration. Even though this graph is about carbon dioxide, we still need to consider what might be limiting the rate of photosynthesis at different points. At point 3, the curve is still rising. That means carbon dioxide is the limiting factor there, not light. However, at point 4, the curve has leveled off. This means carbon dioxide is no longer limiting the rate, so now another factor could be, and that could very well be light. So we can say that point 4 might be limited by light intensity. Next is the third graph, which shows how temperature affects the rate of photosynthesis. This graph has a bell-shaped curve. Point 5 is right at the top, meaning the temperature is at its optimum. When the temperature is ideal, but the rate of photosynthesis is not increasing any further, we can assume that some other factor is now limiting, and one possibility is light intensity. Then we come to point 6, which is on the falling side of the curve. This means the temperature is too high, and the enzymes involved in photosynthesis are starting to get damaged. So the limiting factor here is clearly temperature, not light. So, to summarize everything, light intensity is limiting at point 1 in the light graph. It could also be limiting at point 4 in the carbon dioxide graph, where carbon dioxide is no longer a limiting factor. And it may also be the limiting factor at point 5 in the temperature graph, where conditions are otherwise ideal. Putting all this together, the correct answer is option B, which includes points 1, 4, and 5. Then we come to the next multiple choice question. It begins by saying, the diagram shows a section through a leaf. After that, it asks, what are the functions of the parts labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4? In this diagram, we are shown a cross-section of a leaf, and 4 specific parts have been clearly labeled. Let us go through them one by one. Label 1 points to the palisade mesophyll layer. These are the long, closely packed cells near the upper surface of the leaf, and they contain a large number of chloroplasts. Their main function is to carry out photosynthesis by absorbing light energy. Label 2 points to a part of the vein, and more specifically, it indicates the xylem vessels. The xylem's job is to transport water and mineral ions from the roots up through the plant to the leaves. Then we have label 3, which also points to part of the vein, this time to the phloem vessels. The phloem is responsible for transporting sucrose, which is the sugar produced during photosynthesis. It moves this sugar from the leaves to other parts of the plant where it can be used or stored. Finally, label 4 points to one of the stomata. These are the small openings usually found on the underside of the leaf, surrounded by guard cells. The main role of the stomata is gaseous exchange. Through these openings, carbon dioxide enters the leaf, and both oxygen and water vapor exit. Now, just below the question, there is a table showing 4 answer choices, A, B, C, and D. Each option gives a different combination of functions for the 4 labeled parts. Our job is to match each part to its correct function. So, for part 1, the correct function is photosynthesis. For part 2, it is transporting water. Part 3 is responsible for transporting sucrose. And part 4 is involved in gaseous exchange. When we look at the options and compare them carefully, only option D matches all 4 functions correctly and in the right order. So, the correct answer to this question is option D. Alright, let us go over this experiment again, step by step, and this time with full clarity. We are given 2 test tubes, both containing pondweed and an indicator solution. The starting color in both tubes is orange, which tells us that the carbon dioxide level is at normal atmospheric concentration. Now, tube 1 is covered completely with black paper. That means it is in the dark. In the absence of light, the pondweed cannot carry out photosynthesis, because photosynthesis depends on light energy. However, the plant is still alive and it continues to respire. During respiration, carbon dioxide is released into the surrounding solution. Since there is no photosynthesis happening to take in that carbon dioxide, the gas builds up inside the test tube. We are told in the question that when carbon dioxide concentration increases, the indicator turns yellow. So, as more carbon dioxide accumulates over time, the color in tube 1 will change from orange to yellow. Now let us move on to tube 2. This one is left in the light. Since light is available, the plant is able to photosynthesize. While the plant is still respiring, photosynthesis removes carbon dioxide from the solution at a faster rate than it is being added by respiration. As a result, the overall carbon dioxide level drops. And according to the indicator chart given in the question, a drop in carbon dioxide causes the solution to turn purple. So after 3 hours in the light, the indicator in tube 2 will change from orange to purple. So, to sum that up clearly, in tube 1, respiration increases the carbon dioxide concentration and the solution turns yellow. In tube 2, photosynthesis reduces the carbon dioxide concentration and the solution turns purple. That is exactly what option D shows, yellow for tube 1 and purple for tube 2, and that is why option D is the correct answer. And here's another MCQ. The diagram here shows a cross-section of a leaf, but this time the labels are a bit different, so it's important we go over each part carefully. Now, the question is asking us to identify the parts where both photosynthesis and gaseous exchange happen. So let's break that down. Label 1 points to the guard cells, 2 is the spongy mesophyll, 3 is the upper epidermis, and 4 is the vascular bundle or xylem. We can immediately rule out 3 and 4. The upper epidermis doesn't contain chloroplasts, so it doesn't carry out photosynthesis, and it also doesn't have the space for gas exchange. Similarly, the vascular bundle doesn't photosynthesize either, its main role is transport. That leaves us with 1 and 2, the guard cells and the spongy mesophyll. Both of these are involved in gas exchange. Guard cells control the opening and closing of stomata to let gases in and out, and spongy mesophyll has air spaces that help with gas movement. Also, both of these cell types contain chloroplasts, so they carry out photosynthesis as well. So, the only 2 parts that do both, gas exchange and photosynthesis, are 1 and 2. That's why the correct answer is option A. Alright, so next we are looking at another theory-based question, most likely from a paper 2 section. Once again, we are shown a diagram, and this time, it's labeled as figure 6.1. It shows a cross-section of a plant leaf. The diagram is quite clear and detailed, with different parts of the leaf's internal structure marked out for us. Our job here is to identify what each label represents, and possibly to explain the functions of those parts based on what we see. Let us start with the label marked as J. This part is right at the very top of the leaf, and it's a thin layer on the surface. This tells us it is the cuticle. The cuticle is a waxy and waterproof layer that covers the upper surface of the leaf. Its main function is to reduce water loss by evaporation and to protect the leaf from external damage or pathogens. Now moving on to the label marked as K. This one points to a layer of tall, tightly packed cells located just below the upper epidermis. These cells contain many chloroplasts. Based on this structure, we can identify it as the palisade mesophyll layer. The main function of this layer is to carry out photosynthesis, as the chloroplasts inside the cells absorb light energy efficiently. Finally, we come to label L. This one is pointing toward the bottom part of the leaf. It is likely indicating the lower epidermis, which is the bottom layer of cells that forms the outer covering of the leaf. However, the label seems to be pointing more closely at a pair of curved, bean-shaped cells, which suggests it might also be identifying the guard cells. These cells surround the stomata, the tiny openings that allow gases to move in and out of the leaf. Guard cells control whether the stomata are open or closed, which helps regulate both gaseous exchange and water loss through transpiration. Now the question asks, identify each of J, K and L and explain the importance of each in the process of photosynthesis. So we have already identified these parts in the diagram, and now we will simply write our answers. J is cuticle. The cuticle is a transparent, waxy, protective layer on the surface of a leaf. Its transparency allows sunlight to pass through to the photosynthetic cells below. This layer also helps prevent water loss from the leaf. This shows that the cuticle, while mainly there for protection and to reduce water loss, also plays a small but important role in photosynthesis by letting sunlight pass through to the layers beneath. K is palisade mesophyll. The palisade mesophyll is a layer of cells located directly beneath the upper epidermis. These cells are packed with chloroplasts, which contain chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a green pigment that absorbs light energy, which is essential for the process of photosynthesis. This is where most of the photosynthesis in a leaf occurs, so the palisade mesophyll is really the main site of photosynthesis inside the leaf. It has all the right structures and is perfectly positioned to capture the light that the plant needs to make food. L is lower epidermis. The lower epidermis is the bottom layer of the leaf. It contains stomata, which are small pores surrounded by guard cells. The stomata regulate the exchange of gases, allowing carbon dioxide to enter the leaf for photosynthesis and oxygen to exit as a byproduct. They also play a role in transpiration, the process of water vapor leaving the leaf. This means the lower epidermis helps manage the gases needed for photosynthesis, bringing in carbon dioxide and letting out oxygen, while also playing a role in controlling water loss. Now, the next part asks us to name and describe the function of one tissue found in the vascular bundle of a leaf. We know that vascular bundles are made up of two main types of tissues, xylem and phloem. So we can choose either one for our answer. Since we have already talked a bit about this in chapter 1 as well, let us go ahead and write about xylem. So we will simply write, xylem tissue is found in the vascular bundle of a plant leaf. Xylem transports water throughout the plant which is needed for the plant transpiration. It takes water and mineral ions from the soil through roots and then transports it upwards to the plant. This answer covers both the location and the function of xylem in a clear and accurate way. It shows that xylem plays an essential role in moving water and minerals from the roots to the rest of the plant, which supports both photosynthesis and transpiration.